So there's a little acronym to help us remember which trig functions are positive in which quadrants, okay? So it says a smart trig class. So a smart, well, yeah, trig class. I've also heard it, all students take calculus. Okay, but anyway, we'll go with a smart trig class. So A is for all, meaning all the trig functions are positive in the first quadrant. Remember, this is quadrant 1, this is quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Let's slide it back. Going all over the place here. Okay, so smart, that means sine, and the reciprocal of sine, which is cosecant, those are positive in the second quadrant. In the third quadrant, it's T for tangent and cotangent. So T for tangent, then you have to remember the reciprocal is cotangent. Okay. And then class, that's going to be cosine, and then the reciprocal of cosine, which is secant. Those tell you what's positive in each quadrant. Everything else is negative. So you're either positive or negative. And in the first quadrant, all trig functions are positive. In the second quadrant, sine and cosecant are positive. In the third quadrant, tangent and cotangent are positive. And in the fourth quadrant, cosine and secant are positive. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use reference angles. So let's say we have an angle, 3 pi over 4. Well, 3 pi over 4 is over here in the second quadrant, and it has a reference angle right there. So here's 3 pi over 4. The reference angle is right here, which is pi minus 3 pi over 4, or pi over 4. So what I can do then is, if I want to know all the trig values for 3 pi over 4, I'm going to use the reference angle and then to find out which ones are positive and which ones are negative. Okay? So I'll give you an example. So the sine of 3 pi over 4, I have to remember what the sine of pi over 4 is. That was the square root of 2 over 2. And then I say, oh, is sine positive here? Sine is positive. Sine is positive. Okay, so it's going to be the square root of 2 over 2. Then I can do the cosine of 3 pi over 4. So I think, well, what's the cosine of pi over 4, the reference angle? It's also the square root of 2 over 2. But cosine is negative in the second quadrant. So the cosine of 3 pi over 4 is going to be negative square root 2 over 2. And then I can say, well, what's the tangent of 3 pi over 4? I can think about the tangent of pi over 4, or I can use the idea that it's sine over cosine. But it's going to be negative, and it's going to be 1. And then I can do the cotangent of 3 pi over 4, which is also negative, and it's going to be negative 1. And then I can do the secant of 3 pi over 4. That's the reciprocal of the cosine. It will also be negative, so it's negative square root 2. And then finally I can do the cosecant of 3 pi over 4, which is going to be the reciprocal of sine. So it's going to be the square root of 2. Is it positive or is it negative? It's positive because it's in the second quadrant. And because the reciprocal of sine is going to be positive in this case. Okay, so that's an example of where we're headed.